In this next segment, what I'd like to talk about is Columbus as a community. Now, I'm not from Columbus. Believe it or not, even though I've been here quite a few years, I still don't feel like a native. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I guess my brain is always elsewhere. I travel, and but I've never really, even to this day, really considered home. And for many years, I've always struggled with trying to understand the city and the way people work. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm totally ignorant of how the South works, because in my corporate days, I would travel around the southeastern U.S., so I had a taste of the culture. People are laid back. People are very polite. But I have to tell you, this whole incident has really woken me up about the city. Now, I guess I want you, because you were brought up here, and you've become a businessman yourself and all that, I want you to kind of share with our viewers, why are people so reluctant to come out? What is the deal with that? To me, it's a second nature. You do me wrong, you got to come out and say something. What is up with this?
Well, I think people are inherently, fighting isn't their, first nature. And I think, and part of that comes from, we are in the South, I mean, if this were to happen either like in a big city like Atlanta or New York, or somewhere.
They come out and beat the hell out of her.
Right. I mean, somebody could have a $500 collection account, and they're beating their door down. But, I mean, Columbus is just, I mean, it's known for, it's kind of a small, big city. And people do, Columbus is kind of, a small, big city. Is it a small, big city or a big, small city?
It doesn't work. Okay. It doesn't matter.
But Columbus is kind of a small, big city, and so, you do run into people For example, I was in Kinko's just the other day. I saw 2 people that I probably haven't seen in 2 years. Just in Kinko's, there's probably not 10 people in the whole store, but that happens to me every day, whether I'm at the grocery store or at a gym or kind of wherever. So I think that's kind of been ingrained in people. So, people who are reluctant to come out and go on a fight for something like this, knowing that everybody kind of knows everybody. This is still a town where everybody kind of knows everybody.
It's very connected.
It is very connected.
Yeah, for a long time, I've always tried to stay a little disconnected because I don't know, it just made me a little nervous that everybody kind of knew everybody else's business. But you think that's what it is? That it's that connectedness is what makes people a little afraid.
That's part of it, and the other part that I started to kind of talk about earlier is that Columbus is a southern city. We are in the South. And it's just, it's just not the nature of kind of the town to really raise a ruckus or, it's kind of tough to explain, but people, it's just more of a laid back approach. People are out there, they have their jobs, they have their businesses, they're making their money, but as far as, fighting for a collection account or whatever, that's just not in their nature.
Okay, now that this has happened, a lot of people are very upset, and there have been some people who have come out, and I've been very grateful to them. That way I don't feel so alone. A lot of reputable people, when you're great, have stepped up and talked. I mean, all of these reputable people couldn't be making this up. Would you agree?
No, they have no reason to make it.
There is no reason to.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. But do you think that it's a good thing to speak up or not to speak up in being faced with this situation? I mean, because you're from here, but you also have traveled. You've dealt with different investors. You've dealt with a lot of different people. So you've got a different. What do you think is the right approach?
My opinion is it doesn't hurt you to, in a situation like this, to come out, and say, hey, look, I'm part of this list too, or I'm part of this group that was taken advantage of, because it's not. At least me, if I were to see even some of my business associates or some companies that I've dealt with, I mean, they're not gonna be guilty through association that the same thing that I'm guilty of. You know what I mean? That's not going to be any reflection of what I think about them. So I mean, I think in this case, I think it would be good for people to come out. I mean, in my opinion.
You don't think it would tarnish your reputation to say, you know what, I goofed by trusting this woman?
No, I don't think so. Not in my opinion.
Well, I mean, if that's going to happen, boy, I'll tell you what. I mean, people are going to not avoid me like the plague. But even if they want to, even if they say, well, I don't mind joining this group, it's just, it's negative, and a lot of people just It is absolutely negative.
And a lot of people just don't want to deal with it.
I understand.
A lot of people, and they may not necessarily be sticking their head in the sand. I mean, they're aware, maybe on their own books, that, hey, I've got this collection account out there that either possibly has been collected or I'll never collect on it. But as far as them wanting to go and put forth their time and energy, or whether it's them or they have put their employees on it or something, It's just the majority of it is just not going to happen. I don't think.
You know, I almost hate to say this, but you know, because of, you know, I think that some people understand how the city works and they can get away with it. I think part of it is Janice understood this. I think
so.
she was born and raised in this area and she understood it.
Mm-hmm.
And even right now on the legal aspect, she was never afraid of lawsuits and things
Right.
like that. I mean, she would outright write it. I mean, you can read it on the internet. She really didn't care about filing lawsuits.
Right.
And I knew that, you know, going that legal channel was not the way to go. That was not the way to win this thing.
Yeah.
It's just, but it has been eye-opening. And so what do you think? You've seen these accounts.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about the sizes of it? I mean, is it mind-boggling?
I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw the number one, the size of the accounts, and two, when I looked down the names on there, I'm thinking, how in the world did she get in the doors of these big companies and get, you know, and gain the trust? I mean, she gained our trust, but I would consider us a relatively small, you know, account.
Oh, without a doubt, we're small.
Exactly. But the fact that she could, you know, get these accounts, you know, I'm thinking, you know, she definitely, you know, would have been good at running a collection agency for sure. What was the
So excuse me. So these people have lost so much money and they don't want to speak out. Do you think that it's going to lend itself well to them being victimized again, or?
Well, I think they'll be more aware. I mean, the fact that it happened, but you're right. I mean, this is what I was going to say a minute ago. I guess I think what you were alluding to is that, you know, can other people get away with this in Columbus, or does
you don't speak up?
Right, or does Columbus leave itself open for things like this to happen? And I think part of that is true. But at the same time, what the flip side of what someone from this community is going to say, well, we enjoy our laid back lifestyle, and we're not going to raise up in arms and live like a big city like Atlanta or New York just to keep this from happening once every 5 years, or somebody coming in and you know what I mean? They're not willing to do the trade-off.
Now, going back, you know, in the early days of our partnership, I mean, you know, if you can recall when we first got together, if you recall, I think you always thought I was a little bit more edgier and I was a little bit hard-nosed. You know, I was a little bit tougher than I needed to be with some of the tenants. And I don't want to mean to put you on the spot, but I've noticed you've gotten tougher over the years yourself. Well, I mean, you're not quite as vocal as I am, but you've gotten tough in your own way. How do you? What's that all about?
Well, I mean, you know, obviously in our business we deal, you know, that's the nature of our business where we're dealing with the tenants and, you know, people who don't pay and things like that. And so
contractors. We deal with all kinds of people.
Right.
And you've gotten tougher all the way around. Why do you think you've done that?
Well, you know, it's made for easier and better business in a way. I mean, you know, a quick and easy answer would be, you know, it's a result oriented sometimes way of being. I mean, but there's still a line, you know, obviously, you know, there's always a line to cross, but and I think as far as these businesses that are on this list, I think before they were to give a $500,000 collection account over to some other, you know, collection agent, I think, trust me, I think a lot of them have, even though they may not be speaking out and they may not be willing to go on the fight, but I think before they were to hand over another account, I think a lot of them probably have behind closed doors learned their lesson and they took their lickings.
It just seems like a hugely expensive price to pay.
It is, yeah.